You picture a famous escape as a clever man slipping past the guards into freedom. 8 men walked into the Tasmanian wilderness. Only one walked out. And what happened to the other 7 made him a legend of horror. But this is not really a story about one monster. It is a story about what a prison can do to men. The year is 1822. Off the brutal west coast of Tasmania sits Macquarie Harbour. At its heart is Sarah Island, a penal station for the worst of the convicts. This was where the British Empire sent men it wanted to break. The work was felling timber in freezing rain, chained for endless hours. Floggings of 100 lashes were ordinary. Some men deliberately committed crimes just to be hanged and escape it. Among them was Alexander Pearce, an Irishman transported across the world for stealing 6 pairs of shoes. On the 8th of September, 8 convicts made their move. They stole a boat, scuttled it, and vanished into the bush. Their plan was to walk east, across the island, to the settled lands. No one had ever crossed that wilderness on foot. They carried only a few stolen provisions and an axe. Within days, the food was gone. The land gave them nothing. Soaked, freezing, and starving, they staggered up the mountains. And then someone said the thing no one wanted to say. If one of them died, the others might live. The most hardened of them was Robert Greenhill, who still had the axe. A man named Alexander Dalton was the first to be killed. Starvation overruled everything they had been taught. The flesh kept them walking for a few more days. Then the hunger returned, and so did the arithmetic of death. 2 of the men, terrified, slipped away in the night to take their chances alone. They were never seen alive again. Now the killing settled into a pattern among those who remained. One by one, the weakest became the next meal. The numbers shrank until only 3 were left: Greenhill, his close friend Matthew Travers, and Pearce. Travers was bitten by a snake and could no longer walk. Greenhill carried his friend for days before the hunger won. Then Travers too was gone. And now there were 2. Pearce and Greenhill, each knowing what the other was thinking. Neither dared to sleep. For days they watched each other across the dying fire. But Greenhill had the axe, and Pearce knew time was against him. He waited until Greenhill finally drifted off. Then he took the axe for himself. Of the 8 who fled, Alexander Pearce now walked alone. He survived, found a settler's hut, and was eventually recaptured. When he confessed the truth, the authorities simply did not believe him. They assumed his companions were still hiding in the bush. So, instead of being hanged, he was sent back to Sarah Island. And in 1823, Alexander Pearce escaped again. This time he was caught with human flesh in his pocket, though fish and bread sat untouched in his pack. He had killed again when he no longer even needed to. On the 19th of July, 1824, Pearce was hanged in Hobart. A clergyman recorded his confession in careful detail. And here is the part most people miss. Most cannibal stories are accidents of shipwreck or sudden disaster. This one was a choice, made again and again by men in their right minds. And the thing that drove them to it was not the wilderness. It was the prison they were so desperate to leave. A system so cruel that starving to death in the bush felt like freedom. 8 men walked into the Tasmanian wilderness, fleeing something worse than death. Only one walked out, and the empire had made him exactly what he became.